Hi class, this is interactive comment 4 for History and Philosophy of Higher Education, and this week's prompt asks, what effect has the Yale Report of 1828 had upon modern higher education institutions? And before we can really get into that, I feel that I need to restate what is the Yale Report to get some foundation. But before I even do that, I think it's very interesting that the Yale Report was initiated on September 11th. And that was, of 1827. That was 188 years from yesterday. So that's just phenomenal, because the answer to the question that I feel like absolutely it has shaped our culture of higher education, and 188 years ago, that's how rich and thick the foundation of higher ed is, because we see the effects all in our higher ed institutions today. So I felt the need to say that. But what is the Yale Report? It was a report written by the faculty of Yale College at the time, and it was in defense of the dead languages, the Greek and the Latin languages. And basically it was during a time, which we talked about in class, that the culture of higher ed at that point in the colleges were wanting to move in a different direction. They were wanting to experiment and branch out, if you will, with more a broader based curriculum and more diverse. They were getting more and more diverse through the years, and they were wanting to move away from everyone taking the dead languages as the foundation and as what was built. That was what the higher institutions at that time were built on. They were wanting to move away from that in the classical curriculum, in the classical art curriculum. And the faculty there were asked, it was a committee that asked them to basically see what they thought about it. And so this was their report, and their report was in strong defense of the dead languages. So the Yale Report is their defense, and the main points of the report are that they're broken into two parts. It's broken into part 1. It talks about the current curriculum at that time at Yale College and why that curriculum is important, and why they feel that they need to stay with that type curriculum. Part 2 was more specific about the importance of the curriculum. So that is a little background about what the Yale Report is, in my opinion, and when I read it. I think the effects today in higher education are seen throughout our institutions. Just as I was reading through the report, there were just several things that would stick out, boom, 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 as I was going through, because there's so many parts of it that are still valid today in our education. And I think this report molded our curriculum and how it's taught, and to keep a portion of languages, but to keep that foundational base. And it's been 188 years since this report was written, or initiated, not written. So that just amazes me. So that is how, again, rich it is. So first point, what is it that I see that is so overlapping from the Yale Report to today? The first thing is that our curriculum, we have a prescribed same set of curriculum for all students that enter college. Now each institution may vary a little, but at the core of our education in college, there is what we call core classes. And this is what sticks out most profoundly to me, is that we still go by these core classes as they did then. And in most core classes, you're required to have your 2 foreign languages, which is similar to what they're saying in this report with their language. Of course, it's not Greek and Latin. It's Spanish and sign language and French and, that type of thing. But it's still the foundation of what they outlined in this report. Also, they wrote in the report about the need for making sure, well, first I like how they identified that they admit that education is not broken, I know that sounds familiar in today's education because we seem to hear that a lot. The education system is broken, but they admit in their report that there is need for improvement. And even then, they realize that it's an ever-changing, education is ever-changing, and you have to change it with your community. And actually, they put that in there. They have a statement about that in the report, and it says, it's a statement that shows college is community involved, and it changes with the times to benefit the population and the people of the community. And that was actually in part 1, one of the very first statements. We believe that changes may, from time to time, be made with advantage to meet the varying demands of the community, to accommodate the course of instruction of the rapid advance of the country in population refinement and opulence. And it has a sense of continually advancing. And that is what our mission statements are, even today. And so that is so important, because even then they saw this, and they saw that there was a need to mold and change with our times, but yet we still need an underlying foundational root of core of what every student needs to get, and then branch out to what they need. So, but I do like how they show that there was a community, and I think that's a way that it was molded, and it has an effect on our modern education, even with the need to make sure we're teaching our students what's out in the business world. I mean, it's still present today through advisory. I know with my college we have biannual advisory meetings, to where each program has to meet with their advisory, and the advisory is made up of people in the community, or people in industry, in secondary education, who they feel that is important to their program, to make sure they're staying up with what's been the need for that career that students are going into. So even with advisory committees, that's still present, with making sure that we're teaching what's valid and what the student needs to be able to get the job. Also, as I was reading through this, I couldn't help but to think, in part 1, they prescribed a type of the object, and that they were very clear about what the object of their college and what their object of Yale University was, and what their job was, basically. And I thought that was interesting, because that is a mission statement. That is what each college does today, and that is what they strive to. So it almost seems in this paper that they were describing their mission statement, and they were getting clarity about the direction that they wanted to be, and that was the direction they wanted to go, and it laid down the framework to go in that path. And so they just happened to lay the framework down for most all higher education institutions. So I mean, they went through several different areas that resonates with how higher education is today as well. They went through the residence hall and describing how they needed someone over the residence hall. The dean, they talked about having what we would call a dean of students, describing the process of learning and teaching in the classroom. And I don't think any of this was laid out before. So they talked about textbooks, and the foundational classes would need textbooks, but once they got more advanced, they would need more, a different format, more interaction, and so of instruction. So they talked about instruction and how there's a need for that, and how it's different in different settings. So, they really did set the tone for how higher education is today. So they also, it was funny to me that as I was reading through this, on page 12, I saw, they talked about the elements of basically tenure and non-tenure faculty is what we would refer to it today. But I mean, so many of these points are exactly how we are today. We may use different terminology, and we may see it through different lenses, but essentially this is the foundation of how we teach, own and run our institutions of higher education. So that is my vlog, as I would like to call it, but my interactive comment for week 4. I hope you all can take away something from that and learn from it. So I will see you all in class. Thanks.